What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Your Sports Digest. The end of the week. We've had a lot of sporting events over the past few days for us to talk about, some stories to make note of, and to prepare ourselves here for the weekend. I'm your host, Alex McNinch, and follow us on all of our social medias at Your Sports Digest on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Your Sports Digest for shorts there. And then our website, yoursportsdigest.com. A lot of fun and exciting things. Starting a real big boy job here this week, so there's been a lot of chaos in the life today. So yeah, this is gonna be a fun one. I've been looking forward to doing this all week, just because I've been just wanting to talk some sports and getting to watch some of these games when I can and everything. So this is what I've been looking forward to, and we've got a massive game happening on Sunday. Some fun stuff happening on Saturday night as well, and things that happened earlier in the week that are shaping the course here going forward in another league. So let's dive into the biggest part that has happened over the past, I guess, 4 days here now, involving the World Cup and deciding and figuring out who has made the finals in the World Cup. Well, the first game between Spain and France was a Spanish victory that would move Spain, who were the Euro World Cup winners, moving them on to the final in the World Cup. So immediately we're nixing a potential rematch between France and Argentina after the French end up losing against Spain. And then the next day, England scores. I can't remember if it was right after halftime, right before halftime, but England scores. They get down to about like the 82nd or 83rd minute, and Argentina scores back-to-back goals within a 5-minute time frame of one another, and absolute chaos happens and erupts and causes for Argentina to beat England and make it an improbable comeback to advance to the World Cup finals, where they will look to win back-to-back World Cups now. So we have a massive game on Sunday between Argentina and Spain for the World Cup championship, I guess the World Cup championship, World Cup final. That's going to be such a fun watch. It's going to happen in New York, I believe. I'm almost positive. There's star-studded names everywhere, but obviously all eyes are on Lionel Messi, and which will most likely be his final World Cup. Can he win back-to-back? And I mean, if he wins back-to-back here, solidifying himself as the greatest of all time could potentially be the conversation here if it's not already in that favor of him for there. But then the third-place game happens between England and France, which is arguably just as good, if not even better, of a game for our viewing purposes on Saturday afternoon, Saturday night. So that'll be fun to see that too, with England and France, two countries with stars on their side as well. So World Cup coming to an end. This is the thing that's gotten people through the summer, and I wish I was able to watch the Argentina and England game, but I was not able to, unfortunately. But I'm really excited to see what's going to happen on Sunday. I'm going to be pulling for Argentina to do it. I like Messi a lot. I'm a big Messi fan. So it didn't matter who came out of that side, England or Argentina. I was going to root for whoever won that game. So I'm excited to see for Messi to do it, and potentially most likely his final World Cup. But coming to a close, recapping kind of the World Cup, we'll do it on Monday. But quick notes, I mean, right now, this has been a lot of fun to watch, and I think it's even better that it was hosted in our home country, just kind of being able to see the different countries and people coming to visit and watch the games and experiencing American culture is so cool to see, because, you know, we look at it from an inside view where we see other people when we go to other countries, and we are the foreigners and the tourists and the travelers, and that's how we view things, is in that light. So to be able to see people come and visit our country to experience and intake the World Cup, not only the World Cup, but everything else that our country brings, it's been really cool to see. So I'm excited for the same case that's going to happen in 2028 when the Olympics come to the United States, and hopefully, as I've talked about on this podcast and everybody's talked about everywhere, that in 2038 that the World Cup is able to come back to the United States and North America to be able to host once again. So that's going to be everything involving the World Cup. And now we have to look forward to another potential championship. Well, I don't want to say potential championship. Another championship matchup that is happening in sports, and that's been the NBA Summer League. And it's gone by in a snap of a finger, and it sucks to see because that means there's no basketball going to be happening until the beginning of October. So we're going to have to be a little bit of dry spell for no basketball. There's going to be a bunch of rumors and a bunch of dead time, which is unfortunate because this is where the worst rumors and the worst stories come out of everything. And, not many people are going to want to talk about the truth or talk about real things. It's all hypotheticals that are going to be going on from here on out. But we'll get to that point when we get to that point. Right now, let's look at what we got going on in Summer League. Going into yesterday, there were a couple teams that were up there at the top, including Atlanta, San Antonio, that were really looking like they had a chance to be a team in this Final Four for the Summer League playoff. Now, the Summer League playoffs used to be a 1 through 8 seed or 1 through 16 seeded bracket that would turn into a whole tournament to end the summer. Now they shorten things. The players don't have to play as many games. It's a 4-team bracket, semifinals and finals, and 4 teams make it at the end of the year. Yesterday, the 4 teams were able to punch their ticket for sure into making the Summer League playoffs. The first game will be on, both of the semifinal games will be on Saturday. The first of the two between the Houston Rockets and your Memphis Grizzlies, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I mean, what an absolute dominant performance from the Grizzlies last night. They ended the first quarter 32-2 against the Atlanta Hawks, the least amount of points ever scored in a quarter in a basketball game ever, it feels like. Was unbelievable for Memphis to come out there and have just a dominant shooting game, a very overall well-poised offensive effort from everybody. After rewatching it, it was a team that whenever the rosters came out, you saw the NBA players on the roster, and you're like, okay, this team should probably make the finals or make the playoffs at least. But they're going to be taking on a Houston team that's got a bunch of scrappy guys led by Bruce Thornton from Ohio State, who is probably their number one guy, has been their leading scorer all Summer League so far. So, I think when it comes down to it, we're going to be looking at a really, really fun matchup with a good front court play from Memphis and good backcourt play from Houston. And then the other game will be happening right after that one, and it'll be the Golden State Warriors taking on the Los Angeles Lakers. Jaxa Lenneborg and Will Richard will be taking on Camp Carr and Adu Tiero and whoever else, Arthur Kaluma, that is on that team. So 2 really good games on Saturday. The winners of those will go and play in the championship on Sunday night at 8 p.m. Central Time. Again, all these games in Vegas, so time's going to be a little bit wacky compared to what we're used to, but we get some championship sports on Sunday with the World Cup and the NBA Summer League, so that'll be fun and exciting for everyone to get their full, full serving of competitive and championship sports this weekend. And over the past week, we've had some other sports, and this will transition into the final big thing to talk about here. And over the past week, we've had Summer League, World Cup, golf. Wimbledon finished last weekend, but the MLB All Star break happened. On Monday, we talked about the Home Run Derby. Boy, oh boy, could I have not been more wrong on half the things I said. Jordan Walker, outfielder for the St. Louis Cardinals, winning the Home Run Derby. Let's quickly talk about the Home Run Derby and everything that surrounds it. It was on Netflix. I talked about that, how it was really weird that it was on Netflix compared to normal, but ESPN lost their full Sunday Night Baseball rights, lost the Home Run Derby rights, so Netflix bought it all out. It was cool that they had guys like Anthony Rizzo, Hunter Pence, who else they have? Barry Bonds, Albert Pujols, CeCe Sabathia, Ryan Howard. They had a bunch of great guys and names for this broadcast. It was just, and Matt Vasgersian is a voice of my childhood as an MLB when it comes to the MLB. So to hear all of that was wonderful. However, the entirety of the broadcast was pretty poor for the most part. Just not showing home runs, showing the members of the crowd while the pitches are going. Like, it was just very, very odd. There's the new format as well, the home run derby. You get 20 swings, and if you hit a home run on your final of the 20 swings, you can keep swinging until you hit home runs, and then nobody had that happen to them. And then you get to the second round, which is 15 swings, and the same rule applies at the end of the round, and only one person got it. And then in the final round, it was 2 players, 15 swings, same rules apply. Jordan Walker uses that to his advantage and knocks out the hometown guy, Kyle Schwarber. Philly fans were booing everybody that wasn't a Philly, which was so hilarious. And I know people hate it and think it's disrespectful. It's funny to me because we all know what Philadelphia fans are like in professional sports. So it's just another case of seeing that happen, and it felt like, Philly was really rallying behind their guys, and I thought it was cool. Some people can have a different take. That's fine. I don't really care, but I thought it was funny. But congrats to Jordan Walker on winning that. I know that's a big thing for certain people, for him to be able to win, and for him as a guy who was a top prospect and then made his opening day debut a few years ago and just fell short of expectations rapidly. Was down in Memphis in AAA, just trying to figure things out, reworking his swing, reworking how he plays in the field, and over the offseason just kind of overhauled how he swings the bat. And you can tell in the home run derby, just his swing is so effortless, and it looks like he's just turning the wrist and flicking the ball over the wall. It was very impressive to watch, and he's had a great year this year, and this has only carried on to his momentum through the All-Star break by winning the home run derby. So congrats to Jordan Walker again. Shout out to Wilson Contreras, who was the dead last guy to do anything in this home run derby and was one Kyle Schwarber swing away from being in the finals. And I thought it would have been so cool, the whole thing with Wilson Contreras being suspended here and getting to play in the All-Star game and home run derby because it doesn't count towards regular season games, and the Venezuela massacre and unfortunate situation that happened there for a Venezuelan player like Wilson Contreras. That could have been such a cool story and moment. Unfortunately, he fell short, but it was awesome to see him represent the Red Sox for the first time that a Red Sox has done the World Series in 15 years at this point. So that was really cool to see. And the next night was also a great watch as well when the All-Star game happened. And, I think the All-Star game in the MLB is very different because you look at all the professional sports in their All-Star games. The NHL has done it to where it's been pretty good, where they'll do they've done the 3-on-3 tournaments between all the divisions, and then they ended up doing the Four Nations, which has been a hit success for these countries, and then they flip it back. They don't do it every year. They'll flip-flop it to, I guess mirror the Olympic years and all that. I guess the timeline and the schedule. But so that's been great for the NHL. They found a very successful way to do it there. And then you flip to like the NFL, and the Pro Bowl was a competitive game in Hawaii that then got moved to random stadiums wherever, and then has now just evolved into everybody opts out of the game. So you're the third string quarterback on the Atlanta Falcons. Guess what? You played one snap this year and you threw a touchdown on it. You're a Pro Bowler. So, and then they go and play flag football, which it's just kind of weird. I don't like that. The NBA, we all know what the NBA is. All-Star game is like. They're trying to make it competitive by doing the tournaments of the small teams, the games of 21, the countries, having captains selected and everything. But you can't just get them to play competitive basketball, unfortunately. So that's the real problem there. And then the MLB, I think they do it in a way of you're still going to get baseball. You're going to get the best pitchers versus the best hitters, and they're all going to try their hardest, which is a great recipe for success when it comes to a game standpoint. But people aren't going to watch the MLB All-Star game because you watch the game like this one, and it's a 4-0 game, 4-0 victory for the American League, and the All-Star Game MVP was Cody Bellinger, who won the MVP by getting 2 RBIs in the first inning on a single. And there was only one other home run in the game, one other home run in the game, and it was Miguel Vargas for the Chicago White Sox, and the NL ended up with 2 or 3 hits. So that's not a fun watch for a casual fan. I get it. They love it's the home run derbies for them. It's like the slam dunk competition, and then the real fans will watch the other game just to see what happens. But I think the MLB do a really good job about how they put on the All-Star game and not really change it up, because they know where their sweet spot is, and they know how to be able to be successful in this, sphere of All-Star game competition. So ultimately, as I mentioned, the AL beat the NL in the All-Star game. Dominant pitching performance from everyone on the American League side, and then Cody Bellinger winning the MVP just cause. So yeah, that's cool too. But it was cool to see a bunch of Red Sox represented for me personally, and getting to see some first-time All-Stars. Got Kevin McGonigal, guy from the area in Philadelphia, got to play in his hometown and in front of his family and friends, which is really, really cool. And then obviously Christopher Sanchez starting a game for Philadelphia, ultimately being the losing pitcher in it. But it was really cool. There was a lot of neat things about it. And also shout out to the MLB and the All-Star Game for their intros when the starting lineups would come and sign the player card, like they were dipping the ink in the quill in the ink and signing on the Declaration of Independence. That was so sick. Such a great tie-in with Philadelphia and the 250th anniversary. So dope. So I really do appreciate the MLB doing the little things that make it kind of interesting and make it fun for us to watch. But the All-Star Weekend is over, which means the second half of the MLB season starts officially. Last night it did, with the Phillies and the Mets played a game. The Mets ended up beating the Phillies too. We'll talk about all that in a minute. But everything here today now kicks off the MLB second half. The trade deadline is August 3rd, and there's going to be a lot of teams that don't know where to move because of the impending lockout next year, or the CBA negotiations, whether there's a lockout or not. And the playing field is really leveled, especially in the American League. Every team's just kind of trash. So let's do one more standings update here. For both for both leagues, and then we'll kind of talk about each team or some of the things to note about each team. But in the American League, the division winners are for the AL East, Tampa Bay. They've got 56 wins. They're leading the MLB. For the AL Central, it's the Chicago White Sox with 50 wins. And then for the AL West, Texas Rangers have 49. And the wild card are the 3 teams, the Yankees, the Guardians, and the Mariners. Yankees are at 54 wins. The Guardians are at 51. Yes, they're a game higher than the White Sox in total wins, but not in division wins. And then the Seattle Mariners are 1 game behind the Texas Rangers in the division as well, so they fall short. But looking on the outside, the lowest win total in the wild card is 48 wins for Seattle. But right behind them are the Minnesota Twins at 48 wins, the Red Sox, who have 46 wins, Houston at 47, Baltimore at 46, Toronto at 45, Detroit at 44. And you kind of see this, and it's like it's a mosh pit of mid going on in the American League, and which is funny because they ended up winning the All-Star game despite having the complete lesser talent on the team. But you look at these teams in the wild card and just outside the wild card, and it might take 83 wins to be able to, or 82 wins to make the playoffs at this point, just based on how overall unsuccessful the American League has been compared to their peers and compared to the other league. So I think the playing field will level out a little bit with all of them, especially once the trade deadline comes around and people start to overreact and quick react on certain things, and we'll see where that kind of goes. But right now, the more dominant league is in the NL, where all but one team, or out of the 3 teams that are division leaders, one of the teams do not have a higher win total than the Tampa Bay Rays, which is the highest win total in the American League. The Dodgers are the number 1 seed overall, leading the NL West with 61 wins. The Milwaukee Brewers with the NL Central at 59 wins, still more than the entirety of the American League. And then the Atlanta Braves, the AL East or the NL East leader with 55 wins, one short of Tampa Bay. So basically the National League is just taking over everything. Even their wild card teams, the Chicago Cubs have 54 wins. That's still more than some of the division winners. Philadelphia has 54 wins, more than the other ones. And then Miami Marlins sneaking into the final spot of the wild card at 52 wins. They had a hot month of June. They were one of the best teams in June. So skyrocketing up and being able to get into this wild card is massive for them, for a team that not many people really looked at and kind of just looked over when it came to the NL wildcard picture here this year, I think. And then on the outside looking in, St. Louis is at 50. There's teams in the AL wildcard that doesn't even have 50 wins. Pittsburgh's at 50. Arizona's at 49. San Diego at 48. And Washington at 48. So there's a lot of competitive ball going on in the National League. And, you look at all these teams and you look at, well, which one of these teams or how many of these teams are going to sustain the same amount of success they had in the first half? We've seen teams like the Tampa Bay Rays year in and year out have such good first halves in their respective leagues, and in the second half just completely collapsing and falling short of any expectation, and another team sneaks in. So how many of these teams are really going to be able to develop into what they are going to be, which is a playoff contending team? Well, you look no further than the hottest team in baseball right now in the Boston Red Sox, who are on a 9-game win streak heading into the All-Star break. Coming out of the break, they've got a doubleheader with Tampa on Friday here today, and that's going to be massive for them to be able to try to replicate the hot streak they had going into the All-Star break. They're the only team in the MLB that looked at the All-Star break as a bad thing compared to most teams who look at it as a great time of rest. But for the Sox, they come into it with a 9-game win streak without Roman Anthony and without Garrett Crochet, Ranger Suarez on the IL, some other key pieces, just a bunch of guys that you never expected to be on this team. Guys like Anthony Siegler was just a throw-in in the Brewers and Red Sox trade in the offseason that swapped Kyle Harrison and Caleb Durbin. He was just a throw-in guy, and he has been absolutely phenomenal and a culture changer. Cedar Rafael is having a great year. Wilson Contreras is having a revelation of his career. There are certain guys that will pop in on this team. Jake Bennett, another one, just a whatever trade in the offseason to swap AAA arms, and he's been out here performing at the same level as some of the best pitchers in the MLB over the past month or two. And you look at the Red Sox and it's like, well, all they got to do is go out and make one more trade, and they have a little bit better of a lineup than they could have had before. And then you add Roman Anthony back to it whenever he gets back eventually. And now you're looking at a wagon of a team going forward. Maybe I'm biased as a Red Sox fan and I'm buying into the hype right now, but I think it's a serious conversation to have nationally when you talk about the Red Sox, whether if this is real or if this is fake. Every year this kind of happens. They get hot going into the All-Star break. They get the fans to believe, and then they kind of like skid through the end of July and the beginning of August, and then fizzle out a little bit into the end of August, beginning of September, and find a way to get in October, or find a way to lose it all in October, or the end of September going into October. So we'll see how they end up going. The Chicago White Sox, a lot of people wonder if they're going to sustain this amount of success with all the young talent they got, the pitching staff that they have as well. But right now they're fourth in the MLB in home runs. Like Munetaka Murakami, who is in the All-Star game, or in the All-Star game and the Home Run Derby, he made his debut his return from the IL after missing like a month or two or month and a half with a hamstring strain, and that was a guy who was supplying most of the power for that team. So he comes back, he's a factor. Miguel Vargas, who we talked about homering in the All-Star game, he's a factor. They cleared up some more space around for guys like Colson Montgomery to be the face of this team, or whoever else, Kyle Teal, and whoever else they got on the team and that could contribute. They've got some power in that lineup, and those guys like that I've mentioned, including Braden Montgomery as well, who I didn't speak about. But those are all guys that you look at and it's like, okay, can the White Sox sustain success with this young of a team, and can their pitching carry them through? Because Davis Martin is kind of waning. You can start to see his first half of the season slow down a little bit, reaching his innings mark. Shane Smith is another guy or Sean Burke's another guy. It's just, you don't really know what you're going to get out of them. Maybe they make a move to get a rental guy to kind of bolster what that pitching rotation ceiling is, or the floor is, to raise the floor a little bit. But we'll kind of see how that develops, because the Guardians are right on their tails, and we all know what the Guardians do year in and year out. Cleveland just comes in here and finds a way to make the playoffs and scoots in and makes a little bit of a run. It happens every single year. And then the other team in the American League that is to note right now is the Yankees, and they lead the league, or they lead the MLB in home runs and ERA. I mean, this is without Aaron Judge as well, might I add, and Garrett Cole, who is coming off Tommy John surgery, just isn't himself, but yet they're still this dominant with guys like Bellinger. Ben Rice is top 5 in home runs, and Trent Grisham, other small impactful players, Jose Caballero, Austin Wells, who hasn't been great this year, but add him into the mix. Spencer Jones has popped up here and there. So they've got a bunch of guys that they've been able to kind of fit in and fill in that have been extremely valuable for the team. Even Paul Goldschmidt at his old age is dominating or playing really, really well for, the standard they had for him. And then on the pitching side, Cam Schlittler, I hate to say it, is a front runner for the Cy Young in the American League. And then you back him up with, Will Warren, who's been okay, Carlos Rodon, and then Garrett Cole whenever he pitches, and a bunch of these different guys. And now you're looking at a pitching staff that is led by a Cy Young candidate and a bunch of other guys that can bolster your team as all interchangeable 2 through 5. And that's a recipe for success. And who knows when Judge will be back, if he comes back. But once he comes back, he'll only add to what this team's ceiling is going to be as well. But as I mentioned before, looking towards the National League, who is the more dominant side of everything, you start to look at what divisions are the most interesting. It's going to be the National League East. They've got the most interesting time dealing with the Pirates, dealing with the Phillies, the Braves, and the Marlins, and the Nationals, all kind of being in the mix for a division and a wild card spot. So these are things you're going to have to look at. The Phillies lead the MLB in strikeouts. Obviously, Christopher Sanchez is a Cy Young front runner as well. But adding to the group of him is Zach Wheeler, who is dominating in his final season in the MLB. Aaron Nola's fine, but Jesus Luzardo is punching out a bunch of people. And, they lost Ranger Suarez in the offseason, which was another massive guy in this rotation. But, they supplement it with a bunch of other guys that can dominate out of the bullpen or give you 5 innings and then put it over to the bullpen that can shut it down. So, and then it doesn't help when doesn't hurt when your lineup is headed by Schwarber, Harper, and Brandon Marsh, who's having a career resurgence as well in Philadelphia. So, I mean, it's a big thing to note as well, because especially for the Red Sox and the Phillies, both firing their managers, Cora and Rob Thompson, and now have interim guys, Chad Tracy for the Red Sox and Don Mattingly, very famously, obviously, very popular name for the Phillies. And now you've got 2 guys who are trying to lead the charge and push these fringe teams to the playoffs who had bad starts. And Don Mattingly has done a great job with this team, and they're in the right direction. Obviously, when you have the league's home run hitter in Schwarber, it doesn't hurt as well. And then as well in this league, or this division, the Marlins lead the MLB in triples. They're just a weird, scrappy team. They remind me a lot of Cleveland in the fact of you don't really pay attention to them. They're not a household name. They don't have any household names. I mean, Cleveland's got Jose Ramirez, so that's completely different. But their team isn't made up of all stars. Their team's made up of just guys who put their head down and grind out at bats, or are contact pitchers, guys that you don't really think too much about in the overall scheme of the MLB. And Otto Lopez is a guy who leads the MLB in batting average and hits. Like, he's hitting 334 with 127 hits. Like, that's dominant. That's a dominant performance. I think they also lead the league in stolen bases. Do they? I think they might lead the league in stolen bases as well. I might be wrong on that one, but when you've got guys like Otto Lopez like that, Xavier Edwards, who's his infielder mate, Kyle Stowers when he's on, Jacob Marcy is really, really solid as well, and then Liam Hicks behind the plate. Like, this is a bunch of guys now that you're kind of putting together as a team and a hitting core for this group, not just for today and this year, but for going forward. And then add on the pitching side of things. Yuri Perez is on the verge of breaking out massively. Sandy Alcantara hasn't even been that great this year. And so now you're kind of finding your way to win games no matter what, which is great for Miami because they're just kind of an overthought at this point within the league. And I'm glad that they're finally getting a little bit of a light shined on them for how they can perform and how they've been playing even at the end of last year going into this year as well. And then the final team in the NL East to talk about there as we kind of break things down. I won't talk about the Braves. They're kind of an interesting case. They're going to need some more pitching help. They've got a bunch of guys on the IL. Austin Riley hasn't even been good this year. Matt Olson's been solid. Drake Baldwin's been amazing. But like we'll see kind of what they end up developing into. But for the Nationals, another team, nobody expected them to be in this race, and they have been scuffling a little bit, so who knows how hard or how much they will push into this final playoff race. But right now they lead the league in on-base percentage. They're second in home runs, second in RBIs in the entirety of the MLB. And you look at guys, James Wood has had a breakout year. CJ Abrams has been really good. And then Luis Garcia is another guy you add in there. Nasim Nunez fits in a little bit. Curtis Meads had a good past couple weeks. So you start to, build these blocks for Washington and see the picture now, but you don't really know like how hard they're going to push going towards winning the playoffs, especially with the rotation. They traded away Mackenzie Gore in the offseason, so depending on how far they want to push into this, they could replenish with some of the rental guys that they have or some of the guys that are not on contracts long term, and they could eventually become a little bit of a wagon moving forward with the young talent and young assets they have. And I give a lot of credit to Paul Taboni, who is the new GM or president of baseball operations there, formerly in the Red Sox front office. He's done an amazing job of just recognizing talent and being like, hey, go out there and perform and just try to figure it out, because we know we've seen you do it before. Just do it at the MLB level, and they do it. It's kind of crazy. It's crazy how that works. But so yeah, I don't know if Washington will be the team to like watch out for, but I think with some great play behind James Wood, who is just Kyle Schwarber-esque in that leadoff spot that brings you a bunch of power. I think it's something to note and something to pay attention to, especially as we get towards the deadline and what they potentially could be doing with some of their players. And then other teams like the NL Central, you're looking at the Pirates, who leads the MLB in the RBIs, batting average, hits, runs. And Paul Skeens isn't even pitching that great. Like, he's got a mid-3 ERA. Like, it's not even a Paul Skeens season, but yet this team is still finding a way to win. O'Neal Cruz, Ryan O'Hearn has been amazing. Brian Reynolds is starting to figure it out as well. Marcelo Zuna is there. Nick Gonzalez had a good had a good couple of weeks, I guess, leading up to the All-Star break. So they've started to – Brandon Lau's there too. So they've started to develop their guys and build a little bit more of a team than just, hey, we've got Paul Skeens here, come watch Paul Skeens. No, I want to come here and watch what, O'Neal Cruz is going to do one night. And, whenever I just blanked on everything. Connor Griffin is going to come back from injury. Whenever he comes back, we want to go see him. So they're building something a little special over there in Pittsburgh. But I don't think it's going to be enough to catch up and win the division, because the Milwaukee Brewers are just the team every single year. They will win their division, or they'll be at the top of the division, and they're going to pitch, they're going to scrappy hit, and it's a lot of fun to watch. Jackson Chourio is starting to get hot too after missing the start of the season as well. So you're looking at that, and then you look at the pitching staff, and you realize they have the Cy Young favorite right now, Jacob Misiorowski, who leads the league in ERA, strikeouts, WHIP. If you don't know what WHIP is, walks, hits, and plus your innings pitched. It's just a weighted average throughout all of that. He's got a .76, which is leading the MLB by I think 2%. So, he's killing it. His ERA is 1.62. If that gives you a little bit more of a perspective on how great he's been, if you look at that for stats, but it's a lot of fun to watch the Brewers play, but they also play a brand of baseball that not many people like, just because it's small ball, it's moving the guys over. It's not the flashy baseball that everybody loves, but I like watching the Brewers. And then the Dodgers are just dominant. We know what they got. We know they're going to try to make another move. It's okay. We just deal with it and we move on. And I don't think anybody else in the NL West is going to catch up to them. The Padres are kind of hit or miss depending on what week you're playing them, so they might be sellers at the deadline too, depending on what happens. But we shall see with that going forward. And that's the MLB heading into the second half of the season. We'll talk about the MLB more here in the upcoming weeks, especially as we lead into the dead zone, as people like to call it, of just baseball before college football starts to kick off. We'll start doing college football talk in the beginning of August and getting ready for the season there. But yeah, I think that's it. One final thing as well, if you've made it this far, I forgot at the beginning of the episode on Monday to talk about the MLB draft that happened over the weekend. And I was able to have 3 players that I had the chance to get to coach and work with that got drafted. So shout out to those 3 guys. Mike Smith getting to go to the San Diego Padres. Chris Rembert was a second or third round pick to the Pirates. So shout out to those 2 guys, and shout out to EJ Booth, who was the 7th pick by the Baltimore Orioles in the entire draft. I got the chance to work with him and coach him as well. So those are the cool things that you get to sit back and a lot of people get to watch their friends get drafted and stuff. But when you get to work with these guys and see their dreams come true in the MLB, it's such a special moment, just because you know how hard they have all worked, and seeing their name get called and seeing the people on TV talk about them. It's such a cool thing, man. So yeah, shout out to my 3 guys that got drafted, and congratulations to everybody else who's gotten drafted and starting up their next chapter of their baseball lives, or whether it's in the MLB and signing their deal or deciding they want to go back to school. So this is an exciting time for a lot of people in the MLB. So stay tuned here for a lot more MLB talk as we get into the end of summer, beginning of fall. But that'll do it for me here this episode and this week. We'll come back on Monday to talk about the World Cup final. We'll talk about the NBA Summer League Championship and dive in some other news and notes that might happen over the weekend, because who knows what's going to happen in the chaos of sports every day. Once again, follow me on all of our social medias, at Your Sports Digest, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. And then yoursportsdigest.com. Share this podcast or share my stuff with somebody that you know loves sports. I greatly appreciate it, and I appreciate all your guys' support. And until next week, I'll see you guys later.